What's up, High Vibe humans? Thank you for joining me today. We are going to go over the Zoom chat topic. Turns out I wasn't able to record the Zoom chat, but thank you, Erica, for tuning in. Any High Vibe supporter on our Patreon who pays at the $11 level has the opportunity to tune in to the monthly group chats where we discuss the topic from the month, go over our thoughts and feelings, maybe we go over the affirmations. Maybe we talk a little bit more about how those things have helped us throughout the month. So, I wanted to go over the blocks to prosperity and how there are three blocks to prosperity: mental, physical, and emotional blocks. I'll define those blocks, I'll kind of dive into them and explain them a little bit, and then we'll go over a few tools you can use to help work through these blocks and go over them. In the Zoom chat, Erica and I also came up with a additional method to help you work through some of these blocks you might be experiencing to prosperity. Now, when you think of prosperity, what's the first thing that comes to mind? How do you define prosperity? You can briefly write it down in a journal or just kind of think it over a little bit. What does prosperity feel like? In the Zoom chat, we talked about how it can feel like gaining something, it can feel like acquiring something, it can feel like rising to a new level. So, prosperity can deal with wealth, abundance. You can be wealthy in many different things, you can be abundant in many different things. So, for us, prosperity can look differently depending on the person's set of values and what they deem is important to them. So, the first block that we'll define is physical block. And it asks us, this physical block always reminds us to ask ourselves a question: are my basic needs being met? Because we can't focus on goal achievement if we don't have our basic needs: proper food, water, clothing, shelter. We need those things to feel comfortable, to feel safe, and to also fuel us, right? To invigorate us. This is because our basic needs become our goals if they're not met. So when someone is experiencing homelessness, one of the first things that I learned in homeless population training was that when a person is experiencing homelessness, that's on the forefront of their mind. And they utilize all their energy trying to find their next place to sleep, the next place to shower, the next place to use the restroom in a safe and comfortable way. And those things take up mental energy. So when our basic needs aren't met, it takes up the energy that we might need to accomplish another goal, such as going to school, getting a job. We might not be able to focus on those things. So once these are taken care of, we're able to focus on our goals that fulfill our soul and help us to self-actualize. Exercise is a big part of this. So if you feel like you're experiencing a physical block, look to your form of movement. Look to your form of how you move throughout the day. This is a big one that we often forget. We overlook it. We might think that a physical block to prosperity is money, right? It's a physical barrier. You can touch it, you can see it. However, it can also be your body. When we exercise and move our bodies, it can energize us and energize our brains. So, how does this work? When your blood gets pumping and it gets oxygenated, it flows to all the right parts of your body. It flows into your brain and helps to move fluid around. It helps to light up those neural pathways. It helps to transport neurotransmitters. So, the blood is very important, especially when we oxygenate us. It's going to give us the energy we need to accomplish our mission. If we want to achieve a goal, we will need the energy to do so. So start stretching, start moving. It can be something as simple as putting your favorite song on and working into those areas of your body that feel tense. I always move my shoulders because they're always tense, they're always stiff. So I do a little flowy movements every now and then to help loosen that up, to break through that. Now, I did mention that money is a physical barrier. It's a financial barrier to some of our goals: currency, cash, credit, assets, income. We may have some of these, all of these, or none of these. And so, physical blocks to prosperity, in my opinion, are the hardest to deal with because they're so concrete and they are so real, and you can point to it, and it feels like it's something that's harder to overcome. So once we work with the mental or emotional blocks related to financial barriers, whether because we do have thoughts about how we deserve money, about how we can achieve money, and how money flows to certain people. So we have to look at those mental and emotional blocks in order to fully overcome and easily remove the financial physical block because we have the emotional and mental capacity to do so once we get over mental blocks. So let's dive into mental blocks. What is a mental block? You might be familiar with it. It's something that people might be referred to as brain fog, writer's block. Perhaps you are experiencing mental fatigue. Webster's dictionary delineates related terms like stumbling block to describe the various states of this diminished mental capacity. So, if we're living with a diminished mental capacity, it'll take away from our ability to live prosperously. It may keep us from believing that new things are possible for us. It may attribute to an inability to concentrate, an ability to think or reason clearly, which can result in a lack of drive. It might result in you having blinders on and not being able to see your full potential, not being able to see certain opportunities that are coming to you. And what does that look like? So, not thinking of new goals to achieve, right? Not knowing how you'll achieve those goals, which results in you not taking action to begin with. Planning for success can seem like a waste of time if we have these mental blocks to prosperity. So, for example, you want to have a lot of friends, but you think that that people are untrustworthy. So that right away mentally blocks you from really connecting with people because you already believe that everyone is untrustworthy. You want to possess a lot of money, but think wealthy people are stuck up. So right away, you're even putting up your own mental block to becoming wealthy because you don't like stuck up people. So why would you want to become a stuck up person by getting a lot of money? But we can also combat these thoughts, these irrational beliefs, because not everyone is stuck up if they have money. You can probably think of a few examples of people who have money, but they're not stuck up. So, the opposing idea nullifies your motivation, creating the feeling that you don't want to become that something bad, right? Which opposes your original goal. So, where did this idea come from? With mental blocks, we will want to trace back the original block to a time in our lives when we were first introduced to that thought or idea. The original block can start in our childhood as a result from a simple lesson from a caregiver, or it can result from a traumatic event as well. So I'll share a little personal story that I shared in the group Zoom chat that when I was about 13 or 14, my father came home and was having a bad day, and he displaced his anger onto me. I was talking excitedly about a boyfriend, a guy that I liked, that I wanted to become a boyfriend, but he thought that I was too young to have that. However, his anger got the best of him, and he started to say things like, "You're not worthy of a good boyfriend. You don't deserve this, blah, blah, blah." And I carried that with me, that thought, that feeling, that mental block that I didn't deserve something until I was probably 19 or 20 and was able to work through that mental block. I realized that that thought was not my own. I went back to the root of that experience and was able to realize that I am worthy. And I replaced that repetitive thought that wasn't my own with an affirmation that worked for me and improved my own mental capacity. So, if you're looking for some affirmations, I have many, many affirmations on Patreon for you to look through to find an affirmation that really helps pinpoint that mental block for you. So, once we identify the event, person, or original thought, then we can begin to heal, transmute, and move past it. As you're moving past a mental block, you might find or discover that emotions are arising for you, that you might discover emotional blocks as well. Emotional barriers deal with things that cause us to feel. That's the important part. It's the feeling. Feel like we don't deserve our highest good. Mental blocks deal with words, thoughts, beliefs, and emotional blocks deal with feelings, attitudes, with your emotional states. So, for example, this can be things like not believing you deserve or feeling like one is unworthy. It can be a feeling of fear, fear that things will happen incorrectly or will end up negative. This unworthy feeling is also the feeling of rejection from your peers. This can look like the emotion of anger, which can lead to broken relationships and broken belongings. So, for example, an emotional block, if you have an angry outburst, you might destroy something. You might destroy your laptop, your cell phone. You might punch something. You might break a wall, which is like if you have a lease agreement, you shouldn't be punching walls. So, emotional blocks can prevent us from achieving our goals as well because it can lead to situations of self sabotage where you might be sabotaging your ability to achieve that goal. So, for example, if you want to save a certain amount of money, but you end up punching a hole in your wall or breaking your phone, then you're going to have to spend that money on your phone or on the lease deposit for that apartment or whatever. So, you'll have to be very careful. Let's go into another example of emotional blocks. This can look like the emotion of pleasure, where we seek immediate gratification of the now moment while sacrificing the longevity of a future plan. This may involve rationalization or even denial. So, for example, I know it's really difficult to pinpoint but I can pinpoint people's specific examples, but let me see if I can think of one right now. Um, so you want to save up money for that car, but your friends keep inviting you out to the bar. And you go out to the bar and then you spend, $10 here, $10 there, $20 here. And then you realize you spent like $150 already. And that was something that you wanted to save for your car. So again, I'll reiterate where we seek immediate gratification of the now while sacrificing the longevity of a future plan. And it may even involve rationalization or denial. Rationalization being like, hey, I'll make up that money, I'll make it up somehow. Or, oh, I never really go out with my friends, when you might actually go out with them more often than you realize. So, sadness or depression, where one's feeling doesn't feel like doing anything, resulting in missed meetings or canceled plans. So again, these feelings can lead us into situations of self-sabotage where we end being responsible for our behavior. And no one can make us successful, no one can make us do things. So we have to be the reason that we get up for that meeting. We have to be the reason that we go and hang out with those friends. So we have to work through those emotional blocks, and they can be remedied with, again, physical movement is another way to do that, through exercise, or working with cognitive behavioral therapy. So before I jump deeper into the remedies for these emotional blocks, tools we can use to overcome these emotional blocks. Do you have any questions? Post those questions in the comments. Throw up those 111s if this is your first group live stream. Throw up the 222s if you're enjoying yourself. I love seeing those heart emojis. Thank you for your support. So if you have any questions, post in the comments and I will be sure to get back to you. But as a just discussion, let's ask ourselves a few questions about our blocks. So feel free to share your comments. During this exercise, we're going to take responsibility for the decisions that we've made. So right in here, right now, let's just agree. I agree to take responsibility for the decisions I have made. We are going to recognize and acknowledge our ability to take action and to take control of our lives. I recognize my ability to take action and take control of my life. This is a complex exercise that will help us peel back the layers of our own blocks and find a way to overcome. So if you want, you can get your journal out. So how do you define prosperity? What are some thoughts that arise when thinking about prosperity? They can be positive or negative thoughts. We just want to observe these thoughts as they come to us. Think of a time when you felt a lack of good fortune, a lack of luxury, or a lack of basic well being. It might be a time in the past or it might be something that's happening right now. But what are some physical blocks that might be affecting your ability to feel prosperous? Do you feel that the time when you're feeling a lack of luxury or a lack of good fortune or a lack of well being is coming from A lack of a job, loss of a job, your struggle to get basic needs? Is it a lack of exercise or positive movement? What would you like to be prosperous in? Do you want to be prosperous in health, well being, friends? And then, do you know of anything that might block you from achieving this? As you thought about being prosperous in those things, did you notice any thoughts that popped up, such as, I can't do it because of this belief, underscore this belief? So use CBT to work with those irrational thoughts. Perhaps you had the thought pop up of, I feel unworthy. Trace that feeling back to an event in your life. Work on reaffirming those positive abilities and positive traits that you are positive and certain you possess. If you had the thought pop up of, I need a place to live, I need a place to feel at peace, that has to do with your environment and you want to change your environment. Plan on getting those needs met. Make an action plan. Take action to start improving your life, whether it be even asking for help in doing so. So let's dive deeper into those tools. Again, to work with mental blocks, you'll really want to look into cognitive behavioral therapy to write out those thoughts that come up and to work against those irrational cognitive beliefs. So that's one simple way, cognitive behavioral therapy. You can find therapists really easily online. I work with cognitive behavioral therapy, and then you can also find CBT worksheets as well to help get yourself started if you wanted to work on your own. To work with emotional blocks, you're going to want to use affirmations to change the brain, because you're going to thoughts lead to emotions, which lead to behaviors. So with CBT, you're going to be working with those thoughts to create new affirmations. Rehearsing those affirmations is what's going to cause chemical changes in your brain. It's going to cause new neural pathways to form. Those new neural pathways are going to create a neurochemical environment for emotional change, right? We know endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin, cortisol, all of those hormones actually affect our emotional state. And when we practice affirmations, we're working to create a new neurochemical environment. And finally, to work through physical blocks, you're going to want to create a goal setting behavior for yourself, whether it be creating a schedule to help yourself physically start to work on these goals, such as working in exercise to help you get energy, or whether it be making a plan to work with a counselor, whether it be using your community resources to help you overcome physical barriers and get your needs met, like food, shelter, clothing, working with your community resources to do so. So, those are all tools you can use to help yourself overcome these blocks to prosperity. And the final one that we came up with at the Zoom chat was the 4 agreements. So I'll read you the 4 agreements. Number 1, be impeccable with your word. Number 2, don't take things personally. Number 3, don't make assumptions. And number 4, do your best. These 4 agreements can help us work through these blocks because they will make sure that we live in alignment with our values, that we live with integrity. So, be impeccable with your word can help you work through mental blocks. You'll want to practice talking to yourself positively, not saying things like, God, I'm so stupid. Saying things like, what I did was stupid. I am smart enough to figure out how to overcome. Saying things like that, to be impeccable with your word. Number 2, don't take things personally. This can help you with emotional blocks as well. If somebody cuts you off in traffic, they're not targeting you specifically. They're not like, hey, there's Jane Doe, let's cut her off. No, don't take things personally. And that will help you to regulate your emotions. That will help you to maybe call yourself to center during emotional outbursts. And number 3, don't make assumptions. This can help with mental and emotional blocks because sometimes we mentally assume people are going to do something for us or that we know what somebody's thinking. And this can often cause conflict later on down the line. So, not assuming can help us work through mental blocks. Not assuming can help us work through emotional blocks as well. And then number 4, always do your best. And this is just a general reminder that no matter what you're doing, No matter what emotional state you're in or what energy state you're in, whether you're feeling down and depressed, always do your best with the energy that you have at hand, with what you're doing in the moment. This will help you work through whatever block you're experiencing. If it is a physical block, such as exercise, do your best to do the movement that you can with the energy that you have in that moment. So, high vibe humans, I hope that this was helpful for you in really reiterating these blocks to prosperity and working through them, and really emphasizing how important it is to practice your positive affirmations and to work with your thoughts using cognitive behavioral therapy. Thank you for joining in today. I look forward to our next Zoom group chat. And thank you for being a High Vibe Patreon supporter, Erica. Woo woo. I look forward to seeing you again. So until next time, High Vibe humans, always stay healthy, stay light, and don't give up the fight. Breezy out.